Welcome to Creepytalks, where hidden fears come alive through chilling horror tales. Dare to listen as every story pulls you deeper into the darkness. Part 1. I was 7 when the first nightmare came. At that age, I slept easily, too young to fear much beyond the darkness under the bed or the occasional thunderstorm. But the dream arrived without warning, strangely calm at first, then quietly devastating. I dreamed I was awake. That was the worst part. I believed the world I saw was real. The familiar bedroom walls, the soft rustle of curtains, the faint street light glow sneaking through the blinds. They were all perfect copies of my life. I lay still in bed listening. Nothing was wrong. Nothing was happening. But something was waiting. The silence began to thicken. It didn't get louder but heavier, pressing against my ears, sinking into my chest. I heard small creaks inside the walls, like tiny fingers testing the wood. I wanted to call for my parents, but my voice felt misplaced, like I'd left it somewhere. When I finally managed to rise from the bed, it felt as if I were moving underwater. The bedroom door was open. That alone was wrong. My parents always shut it. Beyond the frame stretched a hallway that looked far too long. I had walked that hallway many times. The soft carpet, the faded wallpaper patterned with small green leaves. But this version stretched on like a tunnel. Every few feet, another door lined the walls, and every door was breathing. I don't mean they opened and shut. They expanded, contracted. The wood warped outward and then in, deeply and slowly, like lungs pulling air. There was no sound, no wheeze or sigh, just silent, rhythmic motion. I should have turned back, but something, maybe curiosity or compulsion, told me to walk forward. The hallway closed behind me as I went, doors vanishing into the darkness beyond the reach of the dim ceiling lights. The lights flickered, barely enough to reveal a door to my left. This one breathed faster, more urgently. Its knob twitched, rattling like teeth. I stepped forward. A whisper seeped through the cracks. "We heard you." My heart froze. The voice was dry, like paper scraping against itself. I stared at the door, praying it wouldn't open. Ka! Thump! Something threw its weight against the wood. I ran. The carpet swallowed my footsteps. No sound escaped me. The hall continued, door after door inhaling and exhaling, some quietly, some trembling with pressure. One by one, they started to pound. Ka! Thump! Ka! Thump! Ka! Thump! Each door heaved violently. Doorknobs spun, hinges strained. They begged to open. I kept running until the hallway simply ended. A single door stood alone. It didn't breathe. It didn't move. It waited. The pounding behind me ceased instantly, like a held breath. I turned the knob because I couldn't stop myself. Inside was my bedroom, exactly as I had left it, but not empty. On my bed sat a tall figure, knees drawn to chest, arms wrapped around legs like a child sitting to listen to a bedtime story. Its skin was gray and smooth, stretched tight over long bones. Its face was nothing but a pale, flat surface. No eyes, no mouth, no nose. Yet somehow it was smiling. I could feel the grin inside my mind, wide, hungry, knowing. Its faceless head tilted, and doors began to open behind me. That's when I woke. I screamed, sobbing. My mother ran in, but I couldn't explain. All I could do was point to the hallway, to the silent, sleeping house, unable to shake the vision of breathing doors and the faceless listener still perched on my bed. For weeks I slept with the lights on. I never forgot that smile I could not see. Part 2. I was 9 when the next nightmare found me. In the dream it was summer, the humid kind that presses sweat from skin and makes everything feel too close. My family and I were at the lake, just as we were every year. But in this dream, the trees bent over the water like tall silhouettes, their branches scraping the surface. The lake was still, too still. The world around it quieted, almost muffled. I wandered to the wooden dock. Unlike reality, in the dream the boards were rotten, soft beneath my weight, sagging dangerously when I stepped on them. My reflection should have floated below me, distorted maybe, but present. There was nothing. The water was black, inky, reflective like a mirror. But where my body hovered over it, the surface remained blank. I leaned over, closer. The water seemed bottomless. Something pale moved far beneath, like a hand waving slowly. I blinked, stepped backward, but the dock extended behind me, lengthening over the lake, leaving the shore distant. My parents were nowhere. The silence changed, became alert. Listening, something whispered from the water. Look. I didn't want to, but I did. My reflection suddenly appeared, slowly rising. But it wasn't mine. The face belonged to a thinner version of me, hair hanging wet, eyes darker and too wide, mouth open as though screaming underwater. I stumbled, but the reflection followed my movement exactly. Slow, delayed, like a ghost learning how to mimic life. Then it smiled. The water shivered. The dock trembled beneath me. The reflection placed both hands against the underside of the water, like pressing against glass. Then it pushed upward, hard. Something bulged from below, stretching the surface like a sheet. It was trying to come through. I turned and ran. The board snapped underfoot. The lake pulled at me, whispering. The water surged upward, forming pale hands, my hands, reaching to drag me in. I screamed. A voice, not water, not wind, spoke behind me. You're already here. I woke choking, convinced lake water was still in my lungs. For years after, I refused to swim in natural water. Even the ocean felt like it was waiting. Part 3. When I was 10, a new nightmare visited. One more psychological, but no less horrifying. I dreamed I was sick, lying in bed at dusk. My mother called from downstairs telling me dinner was ready. Her voice sounded warm, normal. I dragged myself up and shuffled to the staircase. She stood below, smiling. Only something was wrong. Her face held the shape of a smile, but the eyes were too wide, too bright, like someone opening their eyes as wide as possible without blinking, desperately trying to look natural. She held onto the banister with fingers curled tightly, like she needed to anchor herself. She beckoned me, but something primal, ancient, screamed inside my body. That's not your mother. I froze. Her smile grew strained. Her voice softened. Sweetheart, I made your favorite. Every instinct screamed to run. Instead, I stepped backwards slowly. Her fingers twitched, gripping harder. Her smile trembled, stretched. A harsh, scraping noise echoed from the living room. My mother, my real mother, was there, at the window. She stared at me from outside, banging weakly against the glass, eyes wide with fear. My blood froze. Two mothers, one inside, one outside, one smiling, one screaming. I didn't know which was real. I didn't know who to run to. The mother at the window pounded harder, her breath fogging the glass. I could faintly hear her voice, hoarse, desperate. Don't go with her. I turned back toward the staircase. The mother inside had stopped smiling. Her mouth hung open, stretching wider, too wide until the cheeks tore silently. A black void expanded where her throat should be, swallowing her voice before it formed. Her jaw kept unfolding, unhinging. She rushed up the stairs, not running, not climbing, just appearing closer, jerking forward in impossible increments. I turned to flee toward the window. The outside mother began beating harder, glass cracking. Please! The house mother was behind me. Her jaw nearly split her skull. Her breath was cold like rotting leaves. A single thought hit me. There is no right choice. Both mothers screamed in unison, one from inside, one from outside, until the sound fractured and I woke drenched in sweat. For months, I refused to eat dinner after sunset. My mother never knew why. Part 4. At 11, I dreamed something found its way into my home. It began with soft tapping. I was lying on my back, staring at the ceiling. The room felt too tall. The air was still, stale. Then came the tap, gentle, rhythmic, like someone drumming fingers on wood. It came from inside the walls. The sound traveled, sliding beneath the paint, creeping toward the corner near the ceiling. When it reached the corner, it stopped. I sat up, staring. The wallpaper swelled, bulged, tore. A hand emerged, thin, blackened, with long yellow fingernails. Another hand followed, then a face, if you could call it that, pressed against the torn wallpaper, peeling it back. Its eyes were large and cloudy, its mouth a stitched scar. It dragged itself out, crawling slowly down the wall, not defying gravity, but clinging to it like a spider. Its limbs were too long, joints bending wrong, body emaciated. It crawled headfirst, fingers tapping lightly as it went. I tried to scream. Nothing came out. The creature stopped inches from my face. Its stitched mouth trembled, threads straining. Then, snapping one by one, its mouth opened. A scent of earth and old blood filled the room. It didn't speak. Instead, it lifted one hand and pressed a finger to the place where lips should have been, as if shushing me. Then it crawled beneath my bed. The floorboard creaked. Silence returned. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. After a long moment, the creature's hand crept out from under the bed. Just the hand, pale and still. Palm up, waiting. I forced myself awake. For years after, I couldn't sleep without hanging my legs tightly curled away from the floor. Part 5. I was 12 when the nightmare turned strangely personal. In the dream, I found an old stuffed bear in my closet. Not mine, one I didn't recognize. It was dusty, stitched badly, with mismatched button eyes and a crooked red smile. Something about it felt familiar, though I couldn't explain why. I picked it up. Its fabric was warm. I placed it on a chair, but it kept appearing in different parts of the room every time I looked away. Sitting on the dresser, the desk, the bed. I tried to throw it out the window, but every time I turned around, it was back inside, perched where I'd first found it. That night I dreamed I woke up to find it sitting on my chest. Its weight was crushing. Its face hovered inches from mine. A voice echoed inside my head, not spoken aloud. "Do you remember where I was buried?" I shook my head, choking. The bear tilted its head, buttons spinning. Its fabric split open. Tiny black hands, too many, reached out, grabbing my face, prying at my eyelids, forcing me to look. Suddenly, I stood in a forest, shovel in hand, dirt piled around my feet. A small hole lay before me, 3 feet deep, just wide enough for something small. The bear's voice echoed behind me. "You left me here." Inside the hole lay a second bear, rotten, mouth overstuffed with dirt. Its button eyes flickered like trapped stars. I tried to run, but roots tangled around my ankles, pulling, tightening, whispering. "Why did you leave me?" The living bear climbed into the grave. It curled around the rotten one, wrapping small arms around it like lovers reunited. Then both turned their buttons toward me. They smiled. I fell into darkness. When I woke, my pillow was on my chest, pressed against my lungs as though something had sat there. For weeks I avoided the closet. Even now, I sometimes swear I see two small button eyes watching from the dark. Part 6. This last nightmare came when I was 13. It was not only the scariest, but the most familiar. I dreamed again of the hallway, the breathing doors, but this time all the doors were open. Every room beyond was pitch black, like the insides of coffins. I walked carefully, though I didn't know why. Each doorway seemed to exhale, soft, slow, like a whisper. At the end of the hall waited the same door as before, still, silent. I opened it. Inside sat the faceless figure, exactly where I'd seen it years before. Same posture, same presence. Its head rose, and though it had no features, I felt its eyes again, deep, endless, devouring. This time I could feel its hunger. It stood, slowly, too tall, limbs unfolding like a nightmare blooming. It stepped toward me, silent. I backed away, but the hall behind me was gone. Only darkness remained. The creature moved without sound, its faceless head tilting slightly to one side. Curious, almost gentle. Inside my mind it spoke, not in words but impressions. We have watched. We have waited. It reached toward me. I tried to scream, but my voice dissolved. It is time. The hallway, the house, the dream dissolved into a single black void. Only the creature remained, towering, infinite. Its hand touched my forehead. I felt myself falling, down, down, past memory, past sensation, past thought, into a place where doors had no walls and time had no meaning. And from the darkness, a whisper rose. We are not dreams. I woke, but not in my room. I stood at the end of that long, breathing hallway, awake, truly awake, and paralyzed with terror. The doors were closed once more, and from behind them something whispered, "We heard you." My scream finally came, tearing me from that place. I awoke in my bed, morning sunlight warm on my face, but the terror did not fade, because I knew something unmistakable. The nightmares were not just nightmares. They were visits, and they would come again. Epilogue. Even now, years later, I find myself pausing before dark hallways, listening. Sometimes I hear quiet breathing where there shouldn't be any. Sometimes I wake in the night, certain there's something beneath my bed, holding perfectly still. Sometimes in still water, I see a face that isn't mine. And sometimes when I open my bedroom door at night, one door at the end of the hallway stands just slightly ajar, waiting, listening, smiling without a face,